Let's talk about something incredible, a story that's happening inside of you, millions of times a second, right now. It's the story of how your body takes something as simple as sugar and turns it into the actual fuel that powers every single thought, every blink, and every heartbeat. We are diving deep into the amazing molecular machine called glycolysis.
So you grab a cookie, right? And a little while later, you're sprinting to catch the bus. Have you ever stopped to wonder how that actually works? How does a cookie become, well, sprinting? The whole process starts with one heroic little molecule, glucose, and its epic journey into your cells.
All right, so our story kicks off with a major hurdle. We've got our hero, glucose, just floating around in the bloodstream. But all the action, the whole party, is happening inside the cell. So first things first, we got to get it through the door.
Okay, so let's meet our main character, glucose. You're looking at a 6-carbon sugar, and it's the main fuel we get from our food. But there's a problem, a big one. The cell's outer wall, its membrane, is kind of fatty, and glucose, it's water-soluble. You know how oil and water don't mix? Well, same idea. Glucose can't just waltz right in. It's stuck outside, knocking at the door.
So how does it get in? It needs a special doorman. These are proteins called GLUT transporters. Now, not all of them work the same. In really important places, like your brain, these transporters are basically an open revolving door. Glucose can come and go as it pleases. But in your muscles and fat cells, that door is locked tight. It needs a special key to open it. And that key is the hormone insulin.
Okay, glucose is in. Now, the cell is smart. It can't just let its precious fuel wander back out. So it does something really clever, almost instantly. It slaps a phosphate group onto the glucose molecule. Think of it like a molecular ball and chain. That one tiny chemical change makes it impossible for glucose to fit back through the door it just came in. It's officially trapped. This is a one-way trip.
And now, we enter what's called the investment phase. And you know the old saying, you have to spend money to make money? Well, it's literally true for your cells. The cell has to spend a little bit of its energy currency right now to get a way bigger return on that investment down the line.
So what does this investment look like? First, an enzyme spends one molecule of ATP, that's the cell's energy cache, to add that first phosphate we talked about. Then, after a quick little structural shuffle, a super important enzyme called PFK1 makes the second investment, spending another ATP. And this is the big one. It's the point of no return. Once this happens, that glucose molecule is fully committed. It is going to be broken down for energy. So where does that leave us? Well, we're 2 ATP in the hole. We're in the red. The investment has been made. And now it's time for the payoff.
And here we go. This is the part we've all been waiting for, the payoff phase. All that prep work has made our glucose molecule really unstable, kind of wobbly. And now the cell is ready to crack it open and cash in.
With those 2 phosphate groups stuck on either end, our 6-carbon sugar is practically buzzing with instability. An enzyme comes in and acts like a molecular karate chop, hee-yah, splitting it right down the middle. What we're left with are 2 smaller 3-carbon molecules. And this is super important. From here on out, everything that happens twice. It's double the action.
So, imagine these 2 little 3-carbon molecules are now on an energy harvesting assembly line. As they move down this line, a couple of really key things are going to happen. We're going to capture some high-energy electrons, and we're finally going to start making some of that ATP we were promised.
First up, let's grab some of that energy. A special molecule called NAD+ swoops in and snatches up some high-energy electrons, becoming NADH. The best way to think about NADH is like a tiny rechargeable battery. It's fully charged now, but we're not going to use it just yet. It gets shuttled off to another part of the cell, where it'll be used to make a ton of energy later. And since we've got 2 assembly lines running, we make 2 of these charged up batteries.
And now for the direct cash deposit. As our molecules continue down the line, those phosphate groups get plucked off, and the energy released is used to generate ATP. Cold, hard, cellular cash. Each of our 2 molecules produces 2 ATP, so that gives us a gross total of 4 ATP molecules. So at the end of this assembly line, we're left with 2 molecules of a substance called pyruvate. But hold on, the story's not quite over. Our pyruvate molecules have reached a critical fork in the road, and what happens next all comes down to one crucial factor. And that one factor is oxygen. It's the ultimate decider. If you're just sitting there, breathing easy with plenty of oxygen around, we call that aerobic. Then pyruvate gets a ticket to the big leagues. It moves on to other pathways for a massive energy payout. But what if you're sprinting all out and your muscles are screaming for air? That's anaerobic, no oxygen. In that case, pyruvate has to take a very different path. And that different path leads to lactic acid. Now, lactic acid gets a really bad rap. Everyone blames it for muscle soreness. But its real job is actually heroic. By turning into lactic acid, it helps recycle that NAD+ molecule we needed earlier. This lets glycolysis keep running and cranking out that little bit of ATP even when you're completely out of breath. It's a lifesaver in a pinch.
And this isn't just some abstract biology, it has very real medical implications. The enzyme that makes all this lactic acid is called LDH. Doctors can actually measure LDH levels in your blood. And if they see those levels are really high, it's a huge red flag. It can be a sign that somewhere in the body, tissues are being starved of oxygen, which is exactly what happens during a heart attack.
Okay, what a journey. We've followed our single glucose molecule all the way from the bloodstream to the very end. So let's pull out the ledger, do the final accounting, and see what our net profit really is.
Let's look at the balance sheet. For ATP, our initial investment was 2, but we got 4 back. That leaves us with a net profit of 2 ATP. Not bad. We also walked away with 2 of those charged up NADH batteries and, of course, our 2 pyruvate molecules. It might seem like a small profit, but the key is that it's fast.
So, let's boil it all down. The bottom line on glycolysis, it all happens in the main part of the cell, the cytoplasm. It starts with 1 glucose and it ends with 2 pyruvate. It gives us a quick and dirty profit of 2 ATP. And crucially, it can do all of this without needing a single molecule of oxygen. This is your body's rapid response energy system.
But wait a second. This leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? If this whole incredible, complex process only gives us a tiny profit of 2 ATP, where does the other 95% of the energy from that cookie actually come from? I mean, that's where the real power is, right? Well, unlocking that massive payoff, that's a story for another explainer.